Hey guys, this is Eric Weingartner with Weingartner Racing. Before I start today's video, I wanted you guys to know I am not attacking either Brian Tooley or Matt from MBE. I wanted to start by saying that, although I am going over some of the things that gets spread for them, because I'm not exaggerating when I say from the Brian Tooley video, no less than 4 people this week alone have brought up about the guide thing, and I need to address that. And MBE's is the copper beryllium seats, and I'll address that too. I don't get that as much for obvious reasons that I'll get to, but I do want to go over it because it's part of what they're doing. It's not necessary. It's almost fear mongering, but not quite. So we'll start off with, we'll just get into it. So Brian Tooley put out a video a few weeks ago, and he's just said that, hey, I've got these new guides for sale. These are powder metal guides. They're superior to the bronze, and this is what you should use. Essentially what the video is saying, and it gives the properties and benefits. First off, he is right that the powder metal guides are better for longevity than the bronze guides are here that we have. He is correct on that, but it almost implies as if these are inferior, and if you use bronze guides, you put an inferior product in your head. And he even said these are actually more expensive, and kind of leads to the thing, how could they be inferior if they're more expensive? So before we do that, I'm going to back up and talk about when we say bronze guides, there's actually several different materials of bronze guides. For instance, this is one. This is probably the cheaper one that you will get. This is a bronze phosphorus guide. So most of your aftermarket heads will use this. Then you've got an upgraded one, and that's this. This is a bronze manganese guide. I'm probably saying that wrong, and this is the better guide material. It costs more than the phosphorus. It is a harder material, and it also better resistant to heat, and it lasts longer than the phosphorus. 90% of what you get in heads, aftermarket-wise, are aluminum anyway, even cast iron for that matter, are the phosphorus. You can usually upgrade to the magnesium. Now, he was like, hey, we got these powder metal guides, you know, GM used them, you should use them. Well, he's correct, all right? First off, he never said anything wrong in his video necessarily at all. So this is the stock GM head that's back here. It does have the phosphorus guides, and it is extremely rare for me to ever have to change one of the guides in a GM head. And that's true. The phosphorus guides, they last longer. They're a harder material, they last longer. And GM didn't use them, by the way, just because they lasted longer. However, when the LSs first came out, if I remember right, GM used to have a 100,000-mile warranty on their engines. Good thing they don't do that now because they'd be broke. But so they had to have a guide material that would last long so that the heads wouldn't wear out. So they did use that. But the other thing is they're cheaper. And let's face it, all the major manufacturers only care really about cost. Can we make it cheap? Not good, cheap. Cheap, but just make it to 1 mile past the warranty date, which they can't even do that now. But so when we're talking about well-engineered, they have like 600,000 engines on recall. So I don't know about that. But anyway, the phosphorus guides, the powder metal guides, they absolutely do last longer. Okay, that is true. However, your heads are not junk if they have the bronze guides, okay? Because it makes it seem like any head that had bronze guides in it, you put in just garbage. That is not the case. As a matter of fact, Brian Tooley used to own a company called TEA, Total Engine Airflow. He had since sold the company. But every single one of the heads that they put out, bronze guides, not powdered metal. So they were good enough. Now you might say, well, how long do they last? Because whenever you say something lasts longer than the other, that always gives the impression that they're just going to wear out fast. Bronze guides last an extremely long time. It's extremely long time, except for one thing can wear them out really fast. But I'm going to put it to you this way. We'll say you have perfect everything else. The bronze guides will probably last on your average LS engine because he sells lots of LS, LT parts. If I'm being honest, and let's just be honest with yourselves, the guides will last longer than your head gasket will. Because most guys that run LSs or LTs typically run a turbo. Okay, that's just what everybody's going to. We have an LS and a turbo, LS and a turbo. You're going to blow the head gasket before you wear out your guides. I'm just being honest. So you're not going to drive probably 50,000 miles on your LS turbo car. You're just not. I mean, You might drive it around, do it extremely large, like continuously for years, and make it your daily, which you're like, oh, it's not my daily. No, I mean daily, like true daily, to get that many miles. In that time, maybe after 50,000 miles, you might wear them out. Now, granted, could you wear them out sooner, like maybe 20 or 30,000 miles, or maybe even 10? Absolutely. The biggest thing that wears out guides, and this is the biggest thing, and it's the truth, it's rocker arm geometry. So on an LS, it's fixed because you got a pedestal mount and you've got that. And you've got your stock rocker, which he brought up, which is true, but it's got a sweep pattern in it. If you've got over, I think it's like 620 lift, so if you did a 630, you're on the opposite end, so it is actually kicking against it and trying to push the valve against the guide. But if you're in the 500 range, like GM had it, you're right in the center of that, so it's pressing down the center. You're not really wearing out the guides. Okay, they usually last longer. That's part of the reason why the guides actually lasted so long from the factory. The powder metal made up part of it, but also that rocker having the exact geometry helped it out a bunch. So, but on a small block Chevy, big block Ford, and all the rest, your rocker arm geometry is not fixed because you have a stud mount typically. On a stud mount, if you have the wrong push rod length, your roller, or whatever you're using for that, typically the roller on the lifter, if you have it one way or another, it's absolutely pushing harder on one side than the other. If you have your rocker arm geometry set up correctly, where it's pushing more in the center, like its sweep pattern's in the center through the most of its turn, and the narrowest sweep pattern is really what one, you won't really wear out the guides, okay? It's usually when the rocker arm geometry is not great. So like on an LS, when you go and pass, I believe it is 620, you're starting to get in the other part of the sweep on that, the hump of the rocker itself, it goes out. A roller rocker would probably fix that, by the way. So biggest point to what he was saying, he's not wrong. And if you got an LS head, a stock LS head, I don't know. I like I said, it's super rare I ever have to change guide in an LS head. But he's right. Why change it back to a bronze, put in a powdered metal? You're great. However, aftermarket heads like this one, which is an aftermarket LS1 head, or even this small block Chevy head, there's nothing wrong with the bronze. So don't think you got some inferior product because of that. So that takes care of that. And no, I'm not attacking Brian Tooley, which, by the way, I probably should text you. So Brian Tooley actually get this. It's been a minute, but we probably should talk or something. But anyway, no, I'm not attacking him. Just don't think that these are inferior. These are absolutely fine for 99% of the people. And you all know, you could say it's a daily. You're not putting 60,000 miles on your twin turbo LS. You're just not. And you for sure eating a head gasket before you eat one of these because you wanted to turn it up. Rightfully so. All right, now to Matt's. This is from Matt from MBE has this one. He has said repeatedly on his videos, and I probably need to pull out the head, so hold on while I pull this up. This is a kind of a junk head, so don't get too snot into it. His has to do with the seat material. He says these are brass. So typically when you get most heads, what you get is you get a ductile iron. So matter of fact, these two aftermarket heads, you have an LS here and a small block Chevy here, they come with a ductile iron seat. However, that's where it gets a little tricky too, because there's different grades of ductile iron. So for instance, I love the seats on the Sprodix head. It's a ductile iron material. It's the same one that they use from TrickFlow, uses the same material. AFR uses the same material. These are great to machine. They seal, they last long, love it. They're like the Goldilocks. They're not too hot, they're not too cold, they're not too hard and not too soft, they're perfect. Then you've got this one from Promax. They use a ductile iron too, but it's much harder. So it's more of a pain to machine, and it actually could be a little bit more brutal on the valves, if I'm being honest. But the valve job on the head, it lasts longer. And then you've got like the cheap Chinese stuff uses this ductile iron that's super soft. All say ductile iron, they're all different grades, I guess you could say. His particularly, Matt from MBE, he usually deals with titanium valves. I sell, not a ton, but I do sell quite a bit of titanium valves as well and some of the stuff. Here's what's interesting. This ductile iron seat that was in this is my Dragon Slayer. This guy ran a titanium valve with it, and I know he ran at least 8 races, and we just took apart the heads. And these valves aren't even coated. They're a Del West uncoated valve, 50-degree seat, so it's really actually harder on the valve itself, and it's fine. Ductile iron seat and stuff. As a matter of fact, I know for certain you could have gone seasons, and this is a circle track head, by the way, seasons on it, at least one. So no problem with that. Usually, though, when we're doing titanium valve, so this guy, whenever I'd first done it, had a steel valve. The guy that refreshed it put a titanium valve in it. Otherwise, I wouldn't have started with a ductile iron seat. Usually, when we do titanium, we step up to this material. This is from Brodix. This is an Ampro 45, is what they call it. But Matt from MBE says it's just brass. It's just brass, and maybe it is a brass alloy. That's totally okay. But here's the thing. I don't order, and I know he doesn't either because I've seen his videos. I don't order uncoated titanium valves. So on this particular one, for instance, this has been at least a season or so, and one of the valves is showing some signs of wear. One, but these are uncoated titanium valves. If you run an uncoated titanium valve, I don't care what seat you put it on, it will wear out. Because I have had heads that had copper beryllium seat material on it, and that titanium valve wore out because it was uncoated. We use CRN coated titanium valves. Even on a ductile iron seat like this, I haven't seen them wear out. And I'm being frank with you. I have not seen it. On that Ampro 45, that's a softer material than this ductile iron, and which he calls brass. It will last a very, very long time. I mean, if you lose, so if you have valve train control, as in you have a problem with valve flow, it will tear it up faster. There's no doubt about it. So what he is correct too, by the way, is saying that the copper beryllium material is superior to this Ampro 45. 100% correct. He's absolutely correct on that. It is absolutely more expensive too. And will it make your titanium valves that are coated last longer? Absolutely. He's correct on every bit of that. But it's a little bit of fear mongering because the Ampro 45 that I just showed on that seat there, with a coated titanium valve, you're going to last. It's not a season. That is false unless you have really no control of your valve train. You're in the valve float quite a bit. Because I know for certain I've had ones that have ran drag weeks. So they've done drag week, then another drag week, years, so over 3 years to come back. The valves are fine. The seat itself is starting to get some wear, but you would expect that after like 6,000 miles, and a lot of those are with drag racing. I would expect some wear, especially on these are not 45-degree valve jobs. These are 50 and 55 stuff, so I would expect some. Nothing bad. Like, in fairness, had they not just brought it in for a fresh up, it probably would have gone another 2 or 3, if I'm being honest, before it was like really bad. But the valve itself, I didn't see any damage. So it looked fine. So do you need the copper beryllium for your titanium valves to last longer? No. Will they last longer with copper beryllium? Absolutely. If you have the money to do that, to switch to copper beryllium, you probably should. But this is where I, as a business owner, and myself and my health, have to tell you this. I am never putting copper beryllium in seats in, and I'm going to tell you exactly why. It is a danger to the person, whoever cuts it, grinds its health, period. It is very bad for your lungs. I do not want to end my life sooner, so someone could save $1,400 for a set of intake valves so that they would last, say, 5 seasons as opposed to 3 seasons. It's not worth my personal health. And if you had done the math, and you do the long run math, because he does say, well, it saves you money because you don't have to keep buying titanium valves. If you actually do the math, you'd probably have to get through at least 2 intake valves or 2 sets before you kind of justify, or at least 1 more extra set of titanium valves before you justify the cost of the extra of the copper beryllium. But if you had the money and your shop will do it, it's well worth to do it. Your valves will absolutely last longer. But do you absolutely need it? No, you don't. As long as you get them coated. Uncoated, he is 100% correct. Because if you use an uncoated titanium valve on these Ampro, you probably will make 1 season. Same with it was on this. 1 season. So like I said, this one, he ran almost 3/4 of a season, I think. I have to count the number of races. This is a circle track deal too, so it's a lot of RPMs often. You get the idea. And he went to multiple tracks. It wasn't 1 track. But about 1 season on uncoated. If you have them coated, you got a ways. Typically, they break something else. I'm being serious. So, Anyway, hopefully that wraps up the video. Both of them are correct. The powder metal guides are superior to bronze, but there's nothing wrong with bronze. They work great. You'll have no issues. The copper beryllium, Matt is right. They do last longer. Titanium valves will last longer. That is correct. But the other stuff will work as long as you get a coated titanium valve, which why wouldn't you? But I should point out too, the coated titanium valve costs as much to upgrade as a copper beryllium costs to upgrade from the AmPro 45. But that won't hurt my life. So there you go. By the way, copper beryllium is much easier to machine than sometimes the ductile iron or the AmPro 45. So as far as machinability, it machines easier. It's just bad for your health. Anyway, hopefully that helps. No, I'm not bashing them. Get some idea. There's nothing wrong with the bronze seats. There's nothing wrong with the AmPro, or he calls them bronze seats as well, or guides. I probably said it wrong. There's nothing wrong with bronze guides. There's nothing wrong with that AmPro 45 seats. So I probably repeated myself, and you didn't make it to the end anyway. I know you didn't. But Brian, Thule, love you. I love everything you do. I got to give a lot of credit to him. If you want to look at industry standards, and I'm going to blow a little smoke up Brian's bunghole, but I do got to say, if you want to look at people that's been successful in the automotive industry, like the racing industry, say whatever you want about Brian Thule. He's truly successful. Because if you look at it, he started TEA, he sold it, so he made probably pretty good money. Then from nowhere, he started BTR, Brian Thule Racing, you know today. And a rumor is it, and I don't know how true it is, someone told me he just sold it to a private equity, but that's a rumor. I don't know if that's true. But regardless, even if he did, that makes two successful businesses started from scratch. MBE, on the other hand, he's had a great career as well, too, because if you look at where he started, I think he was working for Joe Gibbs Racing, and then he spun off and did his own thing. So both of them very successful people, well-built brands. So good job on both of those. But I just think a little bit of fear-mongering and not necessarily like this is garbage, but it's not even their fault. It's what people hear in their head, not necessarily what they said. Even as I'm saying this video, I know people are going to misconstrue what I say too. So anywho, guys, thanks for watching. Remember, I'm no Superman. I did race Superboy. I don't port cast iron heads. You guys take care.